my good people, my good people. Hello, world. Welcome back to the show that's hot with your boy Rob Scott. This is Robs2Cents. How y'all been? I've been good. Man, couldn't wait to talk to you guys. We had an action-packed weekend full of sports, full of drama. And we got to talk about it. But before we begin, I just want to let you guys know, I know you probably heard me giving a couple shout outs last show. We are on our way, road to 100. I'm at 85 subscribers right now. So I just want to thank you for all those who have supported me so far and all those who will support me in the future. Love you guys, man. If you're interested in getting your business, your YouTube channel, or anything shouted out, hit me up on my Gmail. That's Robs2Cents, the show at gmail.com. That is ROBS, the number 2CENTS, the show at gmail.com. But you didn't hear me. You didn't come on here to hear me tell you about my email address. You came on here to hear me talk about sports. So let's talk sports. And man, did we have some great games from the NFL today and on Thanksgiving. Let's talk about the Thanksgiving games as the Texans beat the Detroit Lions 41-25. Deshaun Watson had a lot to be thankful for, going 17-25, 318 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Had his boy Will Full out there, helping him out. 6 receptions, 171 yards, 2 touchdowns on the day. J.J. Watt also wanted to get in on the fun. 1 interception that led to a pick six, and the Texans ran all over Detroit, but I know who wasn't thankful. How about them Cowboys? The Dallas Cowboys got ran over with on Thursday, losing to the Washington football team 41-16. And we saw Antonio Gibson go berserk. 20 carries, 115 yards on the day, 3 touchdowns. How about them Cowboys? We thought that the Cowboys were putting themselves in to be the leaders of the NFC East. They looked like they were on the rise. However, Washington came and said, nah, bruh, we got some business to take care of. And take care of business they did. Then we look at today's game. We saw the Bills versus the Chargers, 27-17. Chargers losing to the Bills. Josh Allen, horrible game. 1 touchdown, 1 interception. However, we did see Cole Beasley throw a touchdown today with the trick plays. I don't know what's been up with the NFL. We've been seeing a lot of trick plays lately. But we know one thing that wasn't no trick. That was Derrick Henry. As we saw the Titans beat the Colts, Derrick Henry ran over the Titans. 27 carries, 178 yards, 3 touchdowns as the Colts fall 26-45 to the Tennessee Titans. And then we saw the Vikings beat up on the Panthers 28-27. Kirk Cousins had a great day, 34-45, 307 yards on the day, 3 touchdowns on the day, no interceptions, and a game-winning touchdown drive. Pass made completed to Chad Bebe, who had just muffed a punt in the previous series, that almost looked like it was gonna give Panthers a chance to win the game. However, Kirk Cousins said, "No, not today. I'm going to take over and I'm going to help this man redeem himself." And redeem himself he did, as we saw Chad Bebe catch the game-winning touchdown after he received that pass from Kirk Cousins. Then we saw the Cleveland Browns, who I can't believe it. They had 8-3 on the season after they defeated the Jaguars today, 27-25. And Nick Chubbs, we have to say, is probably one of the better running backs in the NFL. That man had a game today, 19 carries, 144 yards, 1 touchdown. Not to be outdone, we saw Jarvis Landry have one of his better games of the season, receiving 8 catches from Baker Mayfield, 143 yards, 1 touchdown. And then we saw the New York Giants beat the Bengals as they reclaimed top spot in the NFC East, beating the Bengals 19-17. Really, the only thing that stood out in that game is Wayne Gallman of the New York Giant football team, 24 carry, 94 yards, 1 touchdown on the day. Then we saw the Patriots defeat the Arizona Cardinals, who were on a pretty much on a little bit of a run there. Patriots winning 20-17. Both quarterbacks having a horrible day today. This was truly a defensive led game, but Cam Newton making the right play at the right time, hitting that little last minute rush to receive that first down, setting it up for a 46-yard field goal attempt, game winning field goal attempt made by the Patriots. Then we saw Miami beat the Jets 20-3. Tua Tagovailoa out today with an injured right thumb. However, Ryan Fitzpatrick, aka Fitzmagic, not to be outdone, said 24-39, 257 yards in the air, 2 touchdowns, no Tua, no problem. And we saw the Falcons actually beat a team today as they beat the Las Vegas Raiders 43-6. Matt Ryan, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception on the day. That defense showed up and showed out, keeping Derek Carr only to 215 yards in the air, no touchdowns, 1 INT. And then we saw the Saints beat the Broncos. Taysom Hill continuing to outdo himself, having a great game today. 1 touchdown passing, 2 rushing touchdowns. I believe that the New Orleans Saints are excited about their future with this young quarterback. And then we saw the 49ers beat up on the Rams 23-20. Jared Goff on the day, 2 interceptions. Defensive stood up. They caused the Los Angeles Rams to give the ball up 4 times, 4 takeaways for the defense. And also that last particular takeaway that led Robbie Gould for the 42-yard field goal attempt. And then we saw the Chiefs beat up on my Buccaneers. Why you had to do us like that, Pat Mahomes? Bucks ain't did nothing to nobody. They just trying to make the playoffs. And we already saw the Bucks lose last week to the Los Angeles Rams on Monday Night Football. Tom Brady has not been having a great week. We saw Pat Mahomes had 462 yards in the air, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Tyreek Hill, 13 receptions, 269 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's how you beat a team. And the Kansas City Chiefs continue to rock and roll all over the NFL. As I told you, I've said it once, I'll say it again. The Kansas City Chiefs are the team to beat in the National Football League. Tom Brady today didn't have a bad game, 345 yards in the air, 3 touchdowns. However, he threw 2 interceptions. And Mike Evans had a good game, catching 2 touchdowns in the fourth. And we saw probably the best game this year for Rob Gronkowski, catching 6 receptions for 106 yards. And as the primetime game, we saw my woeful Bears lose to the Green Bay Packers 41-25. Aaron Rodgers, what more can you say? 21-29 on the day, 211 yards, 4 touchdowns. Devontae Adams caught a touchdown. Mitchell Trubisky threw 2 interceptions. He had 3 touchdowns. Only bright spot was David Montgomery finally woke up. We finally had a running game with the Chicago football team as he had 11 carries for 103 yards. So I don't even want to talk much about the Bears. I don't see us going anywhere. As I've been joking with a lot of my friends and some of my followers on social media, all I wanted was the Bears to at least beat the Packers. At least beat the teams in the NFC North. I know we're not going to make too much noise in the playoffs, but at least beat the teams that we can to help us sleep better at night. But y'all couldn't even do that, could y'all, Chicago? I need y'all to fire everybody. Everybody need to get fired when it comes to the Chicago Bears. Every time I watch Pat Mahomes have a great game, every time I watch Deshaun Watson have a great game, I say, why did we not draft them? What in our right minds made us draft Mitchell Trubisky? What in the fuck were we thinking? I'm sorry to go on that little rant, y'all. But the show must go on, because if we look ahead, we have Monday Night Football. We're going to see the Seahawks taking on the Eagles tomorrow. And Tuesday night, we're going to see the Steelers taking on the Ravens, as that game was rescheduled from Thanksgiving due to Baltimore being having a quarantine. Some players were tested positive for COVID-19. One of those players being Lamar Jackson, the stud quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens. I wish those players nothing but the best. I wish them good health. Hope they could get rest, and hopefully we get to see them on the field very, very soon. But that is to go without saying. We have to go over the conference standings. If we look in the NFC conference after today's games, we have the Saints coming in at 9-2, number one in the NFC conference. Packers at 7-3, number two. Seahawks at 7-3 in the third spot. The New York Giants taking over first place in the NFC East and ringing out the fourth spot in the NFC conference at 4-7. We have the Rams and the Buccaneers rounding out as 5-6, with the Rams being 7-4 and the Buccaneers being 7-5. So even though Tom Brady has been losing a lot lately, he is still prime time, ready to make a football playoff push. I'm hoping the best for my boy Tom Brady. He is the GOAT. However, the man has been looking 43 lately. And then we go over to their counterparts in the AFC. We have the Steelers still being the only undefeated team in the league at 10-0 in the first place. Kansas City Chiefs at 10-1 in second place. Bills at 8-3 in the third place. Titans at 83 in the fourth place. Browns at 8-3 in the fifth place in the wild card position, and tied up in sixth is the Colts and the Dolphins at 7-4, who are two of my sleeper teams in the NFL playoff race. As I've mentioned before, and I will mention again, I have, in my personal opinion, the Green Bay Packers being the best team in the NFC, the Kansas City Chiefs being the best team in the AFC. I believe these are the two teams that will represent their respective conferences in the NFL Super Bowl game, and I believe Kansas City will come out on top with Pat Mahomes winning not only his second consecutive title, but also his second consecutive Super Bowl game MVP. You heard it here on Robs2Cents. And we also had a legendary boxing match last night, a much anticipated boxing match last night from the first time it was announced. We had the showcase of the Immortals as we saw Mike Tyson go against Roy Jones Jr. And they had a pretty good undercard. We saw a Jermaine Ortiz defeat Suleiman Sagawa with a seventh round knockout. Calculated body shots that took out Sagawa. He could no longer fight. We saw Bottle Jack defeat Blake McKernan via decision with the full, I believe, 8 or 12 rounds. And Bottle Jack had a great bout that night. And then, before we even get to the main event, the fight that I think stole the show. We saw YouTube sensation Jake Paul take on Nate Robinson, an NBA basketball player or former NBA player, and we saw Nate Robinson get the bejesus knocked out of him. Lord Jesus, get him some milk and call an ambulance. I don't know what the fuck Nate was thinking. And the reason I say that, I don't say that due to the fact of him taking the match. It's that when you got in the match, why was you wasn't in the street no more, bruh? You was up there trying to rush my man like you was going to tackle him and do a leg sweep. You was in the ring with a boxer, and you timed the fuck out of that hit. I mean, we saw Nate go down a couple times. We saw Lashley, he went down in the second round with a hellacious right hook right to the temple. And it was beautiful how Jake Paul set that up, too. I believe he hit him with an uppercut that brought that chin up, little fake left jab, and then boom, delivered the boom right to Nate Robinson. And down goes Nate. Lord Jesus, somebody help that boy out, man. I hope that boy ain't getting no concussion. I mean, I give props and credit where credit is due. You did step in the ring. You did take yourself out of your element and you tried to do something you never done before. But I want to tell you, next time rethink doing some shit before you do it. As I've told people before, there is a difference between a fighter, there's a difference between a boxer. For instance, Deontay Wilder is a fighter, he's a knockout artist, he can hold himself. But you look at somebody like a Tyson Fury or Anthony Joshua, those are boxers. They know how to hit you in the right spot, where to hit you, where to get the points, not only with the judges, but to also to get their point across to make sure that, hey, you don't want me to hit you like that again. And I knew even when Deontay Wilder went against Tyson Fury, I said that if he doesn't knock this man out in the first 2 rounds, he's going to lose that fight because it will no longer be a fight. It will be a boxing match. And he can't box. And we saw clearly that Nate Robinson can't box. I don't know how much preparation he was allowed to put into himself before this bout. But if he ever decides to step back into the ring, he should take it more serious because you not just gonna go in the ring and think you can perform any type of way, and you're not gonna pay the consequences for it. And then we saw in the main event, we saw Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. I've been laughing about the comments I've been seeing, people thinking they wasted money. I want to give a shout out to Snoop Dogg, by the way, who had some excellent commentary during that fight, talking about there's like two uncles at the barbecue and grandma need to break them up. I was rolling all night listening to Snoop Dogg telling Roy, please get up out of there, man. Protect yourself. Get some help. Because Mike Tyson was swinging them things with reckless abandonment. Mike Tyson looked like he wanted to hurt somebody. And the thing is, Mike Tyson not angry right now. Mike Tyson is at peace with his life, and he is still a pit bull. One thing you don't have to worry about, one thing you can't teach is you can't teach a pit bull to be a pit bull because Mike Tyson is born with that. But if we look at the careers of Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr., we see Tyson at 50-6, 46 wins by way of knockout. We see Roy Jones 66 wins, 9 losses with 47 wins by way of knockout. So these are not your run-of-the-mill average heavyweights. These are some heavy, hard-hitting people. And Roy Jones Jr. came in with a great strategy. He wanted to hit, clinch, hit, clinch, hit, clinch. He did not want to allow Mike Tyson to land any of those vicious combinations. He didn't want Mike Tyson to continue to capitalize after hitting him with some of those vicious body shots. And Roy Jones Jr. was able to get some shots in as well during this bout. They called it a draw in the end. However, I myself personally had Mike Tyson winning that fight. Mike Tyson looked great. Mike Tyson looked excellent. And Mike Tyson looked like he can still knock somebody what we call the fuck out. So I am interested to see with this Legends Only League how this is gonna keep on to transpire. But I will be tuning in to the next fight. And speaking of next fight, we have a fight this upcoming weekend for the IBF Unified Championships of Errol Spence, who is the current WBC and current IBF welterweight champion of the world, is going to be taking on Danny Garcia, the man with the mean left hook. I believe this is going to be Errol Spence's first battle since that horrific accident that we seen him in, which not only took his could have taken his career, but it could have taken his life. So I'm glad to see that he is back. He is healthy. He's ready to compete. He's ready to defend his titles. And as we see Danny Garcia, he has been next up on this list. Like I said, he's only taken 2 L's in his illustrious career so far. So he was next up on the list. But Robs2Cents, I'm telling you here now, we're going to see Errol Spence continue to be undefeated, as I believe he's going to not only get his 27th win, but he's going to get his 22nd knockout. I'm calling Errol Spence knocking out Danny Garcia in the 6th. You heard it here on Robs2Cents. And to keep this show going, we have to talk about the NBA. We have to talk about what we've seen in these off-season moves. As we know, the NBA regular season will be beginning December 22nd, which is near Tuesday. We're on the 1st of December. Is it me or November has moved by fast as hell? But if we look at the NBA, man, we saw some players get some massive paydays from these NBA offseason moves. Let's go down the list, shall we? We shall. We saw Gordon Hayward sign with the Charlotte Hornets. He got 120 mil for 4 years. Nice contract for him. Still don't know what Mike was thinking by giving him that type of contract. I believe that when you start to give people those three-figure numbers, you're believing that this player is going to put you in a position to win a championship. Is going to put you in a position to become a perennial playoff team. I don't get that from Gordon Hayward. He hasn't really been himself since he broke his leg while he was with the Boston Celtics. And I just don't see him being that player. I mean, to be honest, before that, he really wasn't that player to me. I mean, he was great with Utah, but he wasn't the guy that changed life for your basketball team. However, I'm never going to hate on a man for getting his paper. More power to you, Gordon. Keep getting paid, brother. Then we saw David Bertans and Joe Harris, two respective sharpshooters in the NBA, re-sign with their respective teams. As we saw David Bertans re-sign with the Wizards, 5 years for 80 mil. Joe Harris was signed with the Brooklyn Nets, 4 years for 75 mil. Great contracts for those guys. We saw Fred VanVleet finally get paid, and he is a feel-good story. We talking about an undrafted player, a player who had to go to the G League, a player who had to really start from the bottom and make his way up, a person who went to not only have a pretty decent career, but it can now have the title of NBA champion. He has got paid 4 years, 85 mil. Proud of Fred VanVleet. And we also saw 5 players sign max deals with their respective teams, which is about worth 5 years for 163 mil. They can make 193 mil if they make their NBA the all NBA teams, which I believe is an incentive in their contracts. But these players consist of Bam Adebayo, De'Aaron Fox, Brandon Ingram, Jason Tatum, and Donovan Mitchell, the Spider. Each one of those players deserve these paydays that they receive, and I can't wait to see these teams in the upcoming NBA season. But as we know, not every team is going to be a winner of the offseason moves, but I'm going to go over 3 teams who I believe have put themselves in position to not only be better than they were last year, but to make some serious noise in the playoffs. And those top 3 teams are going to start off with the Phoenix Suns, because as we know, they added Jay Crowder in this NBA offseason, but not only did they add Jay Crowder, they added the point guard, CP3. And I didn't say point guard. No, you didn't hear Rob say that. You heard Rob say the point guard. CP3, as we know, is probably one of the better leaders, if not the best leader in the NBA. You're able to take him and put his knowledge with a Devin Booker, who we know can go nuclear, who we saw score 72 points against the Boston Celtics. Devin Booker is a beast, and now you get to partner him up with the Chris Paul, where he can actually not only learn how to win, but learn how to be a professional. With the projecting starting lineups for the Phoenix Suns: CP3, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, and rounding it out with the big man DeAndre Ayton, with notable bench players being Etwan Moore, Langston Galloway, and Dario Saric, the stretch big man. So I believe that Phoenix have put themselves in position to be better than what they were last year. As we know, last year, I believe they were in that 10th place, and they were fighting for their lives in that NBA play-in tournament, which I believe they went undefeated for their last 10 games. However, they were so far behind. We saw the Portland Trail Blazers take that 8th spot from everybody that was under them, and was the team that went on to go in the playoffs and to lose in the first round against the Los Angeles Lakers. So I believe now the Phoenix Suns have put themselves in position at least to be in those in the top 5 in the Western Conference, especially to like I said, hope, and that's God willing, everybody stays healthy. I believe right now the Phoenix Suns are going to be an offensive juggernaut, especially too because Chris Paul likes to share the ball and Devin Booker can really play off the ball. I believe that's going to be a great combination, and I'm excited to see the pick and roll with DeAndre Ayton and Chris Paul. Then we look at the number 2 team. We look at the Brooklyn Nets, who really didn't make much of a move this year. Their 2 big moves happened last year, bringing in the KD, bringing in the Kyrie, but they were able to keep Joe Harris. And they did bring in Landry Shamet from the Clippers. So you now have a couple of great shooters that Kyrie or KD can drive and kick to. If we look at the starting lineup, we're projecting Kyrie, Karis LeVert, Joe Harris, Kevin Durant, and Jarrett Allen to be the starting 5 for the Brooklyn Nets. It is rumored that KD is going to be playing some limited minutes. However, he has set out for about a year and a half. I don't think his minutes should be that limited. However, only time would tell. I know coming back from an Achilles injury is not easy. And thank God I've never had an Achilles injury, but just based off what I hear, just to have him back on the court is a blessing. Notable bench players for the Brooklyn Nets. You have DeAndre Jordan, Landry Shamet, who I just mentioned, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Jeff Green. There's still questions regarding on if the Brooklyn Nets are going to try to get James Harden, which would mean that you would have to let go of a Karis LeVert and a Spencer Dinwiddie, who I don't want to see let go of. We saw Karis LeVert step up big time in this past NBA playoffs, as he was pretty much the scoring leader for the Brooklyn Nets with KD and Kyrie sitting out. And then we also saw we know what Spencer Dinwiddie can do. We know that he can get hot and he can get hot fast. I'm still interested in the dynamic of a James Harden, Kyrie, and KD, but I still first have to see how Kyrie and KD gonna play. We know both these are 2 players who left winning situations to play with each other, so we know they can be petty. We know they can be very egotistical. So we have to see if they are able to put those egos to the side for the greater good, which is an NBA championship. However, with all that being said, I still have Brooklyn as the team to beat out the East. Don't get me wrong. I don't know how well KD and Kyrie can play together, but I do know that you put 2 players of that type of talent and that type of caliber of player, they're not going to lose much. I have the Brooklyn Nets coming out representing the Eastern Conference in the NBA upcoming finals, and I have this team who is number 1 to me as the off-season winners of moves made either through trade or via free agency, and that would be the Los Angeles Lakers. As we saw them re-sign KCP, they were able to keep Markieff Morris. And then what else did we see GM Bron do? We saw GM Bron bring in Dennis Schroeder, bring in Marc Gasol, bring in Wesley Matthews, and bring in Alfonso McKinney, and also, last but not least, bring in the reigning 6th man of the year, Big Montrezl Harrell, projecting starting 5 for the Los Angeles Lakers would be LeBron James, KCP, Alfonso McKinney, Montrezl Harrell, and AD. Notable bench players: Markieff Morris, Alex Caruso, Kyle Kuzma, Marc Gasol, Wesley Matthews, Dennis Schroeder. The Lakers are deep. The Lakers are really deep. And I believe teams should be afraid of them. The only thing to mention is that AD has not officially signed his contract, but as we know, he's just negotiating to make sure he not only gets a payday, but it's rumored that he's trying to leave enough room to bring in for a third max slot, maybe bringing in a Giannis Antetokounmpo. We shall see. But I have the Lakers coming out of the West. I believe we're going to see the Lakers versus Brooklyn in the NBA Finals. And I have the Lakers winning it going to Game 7, Lakers winning the championship, and LeBron getting that fifth ring in 11 tries. Um, you heard it here first on Robs2Cents. And no, keep on listening. We got one more segment to talk about because I cannot leave you guys without keeping you informed about the wrestling news and what's going on in wrestling. I know last week I didn't give you much on AEW, but AEW has been putting on a great product. It's just that with the up and coming Survivor Series matchup, I believe we had more to talk about with WWE. And I also wanted to give Undertaker his just due because that was his last time ever stepping foot in the WWE ring, at least as the Undertaker. So definitely wanted to give him his time, but that is not to say that AEW has not put on a great product, because as we watched this past Wednesday night Dynamite, we found out that they have the biggest Dynamite of the year coming up next Wednesday, December 2nd, called Winter is Coming. And it's gonna have the main event of that Dynamite. We're gonna see Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. So that's going to be exciting. But let me tell you what happened this past Wednesday. We saw a couple of great matches. We saw Adam Hangman Page versus John Silver, the Dark Order. We saw Adam Hangman Page win with his buckshot lariat. However, after the match, the Dark Order has now turned their attention to inviting Adam Page to join their cult, to join their group. I wonder how that dynamic is going to play out with Brody Lee when he makes his return. As we know, Brody Lee is the leader of the Dark Order. He's been out in real life trying to heal from an ankle injury. We haven't seen him since he lost the TNT title to Cody Rhodes a couple pay-per-views ago. So I am definitely going to be keeping my eye on this dynamic to see what the Dark Order has planned, especially with Adam Hangman Page, especially too because Adam Hangman Page is kind of like his character is kind of like a person that's down on that luck right now, and he can use a team like the Dark Order to build up his spirits. We also saw Chris Jericho and Jake Hager from the Inner Circle taking on Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian from SCU in a tag team match. Of course, Chris Jericho and Jake Hager won due to the outside interference caused by the Inner Circle. As we know, the Inner Circle is stacked right now. I believe it's like 7 or 8. I believe it's like 7 people in that group. If you look at Chris Jericho, Jake Hager, Ortiz, Santana, Sammy Guevara, MJF, and now Wardlow, who's pretty much the bodyguard for MJF. How they won, we saw the referee trying to make Kazarian go back out after he came in the ring to help his partner out. We then saw MJF hit Christopher Daniels right in his face with the Dynamite Diamond Ring, who he then caught the Judas Effect, which is a beautiful spinning back elbow from Chris Jericho, and was pinned by Jake Hager. Cass didn't like that one bit. He jumped right in the ring. He punched MJF in the mouth, but to his pearl, the Inner Circle began to whoop his ass as well. And then their friend Scorpio Sky came out with the steel chair to even the odds. And because of what Kazarian did to MJF in his honor, Chris Jericho is going to fight Frankie Kazarian next week on the Winter is Coming edition of AEW Dynamite. Then we saw the women's title be put on the line and defended by Hikaru Shida. She defeated Anna Jay, who was also of the Dark Order. Quick tidbit on that: the women division of AEW has not been getting as much shine. However, I believe business is about to pick up, as we saw Anna Jay focused a lot on Sheeta's knee and leg. However, to no avail. Sheeta was able to still pull out the W, hitting Anna Jay with the double knees to the face. And as she was walking back up the ramp celebrating her win, we we saw Abaddon come out to stake her claim for the AEW Women's title. If you don't know who Abaddon is, Abaddon has been on AEW Dark, which is a show that comes on YouTube. It's pretty much, it allows AEW other talent to put on shows, people who are not always seen on the main roster. And Abaddon was pretty much running things for the women's division of AEW Dark. So she is like a zombie looking Queen of the Dead character, has the fake blood coming out of her mouth. She even went as far as, after she attacked Sheeta, she picked up the title, she licked it, and you saw the blood from her mouth all on the title. I know it's not very sanitary, especially during these times, but I'm pretty sure AEW had it under control. We also saw the Butcher and the Blade defeat the Bastard Pac in Phoenix due to Eddie Kingston and his distractions. The biggest takeaway from there was Lance Archer came out to help Pac in Phoenix. If you don't know who Lance Archer is, he is a killer. This guy, I mean, we literally saw him take a man and throw him through the ceiling. No, and this was like, I am not exaggerating. He took a grown-ass man and threw him into the ceiling. Lance Archer does not play well with others. He is mentored by one of the best veterans to mentor a character like that in Jake the Snake Roberts. However, to see him come out to help Pac in Phoenix and to pretty much challenge Eddie Kingston, I thought Pac was next in line for that matchup. But hey, maybe we might get a triple threat down the line with Eddie Kingston, Lance Archer, and the Bastard Pac. And then we got a throwback, as we saw Taz have a beautiful segment with Cody Rhodes. Taz pretty much came out to talk about the FTW title, which is a title he's bought with him from ECW, stands for Fuck the World. And he has placed this title on Nick Cage, I believe is his name. Brian Cage, I'm sorry. He's placed this title on Brian Cage, who is part of Team Taz, which consists of Brian Cage, Ricky Starks, and the big man, Will Hobbs, the powerhouse, Will Hobbs. And pretty much he feels that title is not getting the respect as a TNT title, as an AEW heavyweight title, not even the AEW tag team championships. So Taz came out to voice his displeasurement with that, and Cody Rhodes pretty much came out to tell him to take a hike, to tell him to hit the bricks, kid. Nobody wants to hear that. And they went back and forth, and Cody started throwing in Taz's face that, hey, your son, you are a legend in this wrestling business, but your son is at the Nightmare Compound training with me. So pretty much saying he's better than Taz and that his son wanted to train with the winner. And Taz did not take kindly to that. And we saw Cody turn around and we saw Taz deliver the Taz mission. I know you guys got to know what the Taz mission is, which is pretty much an underhook choke. And we saw Taz choke out Cody Rhodes. It was great to see. I've been a fan of Taz for a while, since the ECW days, since the days of him being in the WWE. If you guys didn't know, he was the guy that gave Kurt Angle his first loss. When Kurt Angle first came into the WWE, he was on that amazing win streak where he couldn't lose. It took for Taz to come in, to come and choke his ass out, to let him know you are now in the ring with men. So it's going to be interesting. So with that, because we've seen that disrespect, we're going to see Cody Rhodes and the TNT champion Darby Allin taking on Ricky Starks and Will Hobbs next week on the Winter is Coming edition of Dynamite. And last but not least, we saw Jon Moxley finally come out and was able to sign the contract, officially putting him in the match against Kenny Omega at the Winter is Coming edition of Wednesday Night Dynamite. And after he signed the contract, he then proceeded to beat the hell out of Kenny Omega. And let me just tell you guys, that match is not going to be for the weak of heart. John Moxley and Kenny Omega, of course, has fought already in New Japan, but that match was pretty much an unsanctioned match. It was I wouldn't say unsanctioned, but it was a match that was like a hardcore match. It wasn't your legit wrestling match. So it's going to be interesting to see these two men with their skill sets, especially Kenny Omega. I mean, this guy is, if you haven't seen this guy wrestle, you need to go check him out, especially when he had his cleaner persona in New Japan Wrestling. So I cannot wait to see this match for AEW. And as you just see, as you can hear, AEW is giving us a hell of a go home show and bringing us in right to get ready to watch this Winter is Coming edition of AEW. I am excited. And last but not least, we have to talk about the WWE. And before you talk about the WWE, you cannot start off talking about that company until you talk about Roman Reigns. My God. This guy gets better and better with this character of tribal chief, of head of the table, of the face that runs the place. Roman Reigns is just absolutely amazing in this role. We started off WWE Friday Night SmackDown with Jey Uso coming to the ring. As we know, Team SmackDown lost to Team Raw, and Roman Reigns did not take kindly to that, as he just belittled Jey Uso, told him to go home while they were there at Survivor Series. And we know that Jey Uso did not listen to Roman Reigns, who he then came out during the match with Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre, caused a distraction for Drew McIntyre, which Roman Reigns was able to get the choke out victory on Drew McIntyre. And they kind of embraced at the end of Survivor Series. So I thought Roman Reigns was going to give Jey Uso a pass, but no, he didn't. He chewed him out for losing to Team Raw, saying pretty much that this Team SmackDown didn't respect him, that Team SmackDown didn't want to listen to him, and when they disrespect him, then they're disrespecting Roman Reigns, and when they're disrespecting Roman Reigns, they're disrespecting the whole family, considering the fact that he's the head of the family. I mean, the way he broke it down and stayed so calm, I felt bad for Jey Uso. You ever seen a kid just get chewed out for fucking up? That's how you felt for Jey Uso, and it obviously threw Jey Uso over the edge, because as Otis was, Roman Reigns left him in the ring to think about his thoughts, and Jey Uso was starting to leave out the arena, or at least out the ring area, and he saw Otis, and he came back with a chair, and I think he's put Otis on the shelf for a while, because he beat the living hell out of Otis with that chair. And we pretty much saw that as the theme for the rest of the night. We saw Daniel Bryan go against Sami Zayn, who's the Intercontinental Champion. It wasn't a title match. We just saw them having a regular exhibition match. And Sami Zayn has been doing this thing where he likes to run out of the ring and try to get you counted out before so he can get back in the ring and get the victory. Well, we saw him do that against Daniel Bryan, and he ran in the back of the arena area, and we saw him come back out and get in the ring and get the victory, but we did not see Daniel Bryan. And of course, the announcers are like, what's going on? And we see Jey Uso beating the shit out of Daniel Bryan, just letting him have it. Daniel Bryan did make the mistake of putting Jey Uso's name in his mouth earlier that night, so he let him have it. Jey Uso is no longer taking anybody's disrespect. He's going to earn the respect of his cousin, the tribal chief, and if that means I got to beat your ass to do so, then so fucking be it. We saw Kevin Owens not take too kind of that, and KO came out, challenged Roman Reigns to a match, and we saw Paul Heyman pretty much say, no, it's going to be Jey Uso versus Kevin Owens, and they had a pretty decent match, but of course, Jey Uso did not care about a win or a loss. He got a chair, proceeded to try to beat the hell out of Kevin Owens, but took his eye off the prize for one split second, and Kevin Owens was able to get a chair of his own to capitalize and lay way to Jay Uso, and had a funny segment where he sat at the head of the announce table and told Roman that was his table now. So I cannot wait to see this upcoming matchup between Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns. Couple other things that happened on SmackDown. We saw Sasha Banks get her revenge on Carmella, who's been coming out and attacking her from behind for the past couple of weeks. Sasha Banks walked into the locker room, beat her up, ended the night by making her tap out to a bank statement. And we saw a possible new rivalry between Big E and Sami Zayn, as Sami Zayn was celebrating his victory over Daniel Bryan. Big E told him he had nothing to be proud about. So I can't wait to see that dynamic. I hope they do give Big E a run. This will be pretty much his first singles run since he's been with the New Day. As you know, they split up the New Day where Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods is over on Raw with Big E holding it down for SmackDown. And then we saw Monday Night Raw, pretty much the same thing. We saw the Raw Survivor Team members who won the Survivor Team elimination team match come out, which included Keith Lee, Braun Strowman, Sheamus, Matt Riddle, and the phenomenal AJ Styles. We saw Adam Pearce come out there and was pretty much getting ready to make a announcement regarding who was going to be the new number one contender for the WWE heavyweight title, who has been held currently by Drew McIntyre. And pretty much everybody stated their case on why they think they should be champion, until it got to Braun Strowman, who lost it and fucking headbutted Adam Pearce in his shit, and he has now been suspended. But due to this, once the camera cut to Adam Pearce coming out of the medical locker room, he was met by Bobby Lashley, the current United States champion, and of course Randy Orton, the former WWE heavyweight champion, who pretty much wanted to put their bid in as well. Bobby Lashley having a good excuse of saying pretty much, I'm the only champion that won at the Survivor Series for Raw. So because of this, Adam Pearce made a series of matches. He made 3 matches, which pretty much the winner of those matches will now go against each other at next week's Monday Night Raw in a triple threat match to determine who's the number one contender for the heavyweight title. So in those matches, we saw the first match take place of Matt Riddle versus Sheamus, in which we saw Matt Riddle won. We saw Keith Lee versus Bobby Lashley, with Keith Lee only winning by disqualification. He kind of had the match under control, but MVP jumped in on behalf of Bobby Lashley, which caused a disqualification and got Keith Lee the victory. And we saw AJ Styles defeat Randy Orton with the phenomenal forearm. So next week's match is going to consist of Matt Riddle versus Keith Lee versus AJ Styles, with the winner being named the number one contender and the next opponent for Drew McIntyre. Also, we saw that Asuka beat Lana in a matchup, with Lana being the surviving member of the WWE Women's Raw Survivor Series team. She was given a title shot to face Asuka. Asuka beat her in around about 2 minutes. And then Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax came out talking shit. So that made Lana team up with Asuka, and they then beat the women's tag team champions. I don't like that. I don't know where they're going with Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. I mean, if you're going to use them like the monsters they are. We're talking about 2 dominant women, Nia Jax being a descendant of the Samoan legacy, and Shayna Baszler being a former UFC fighter. So, I mean, put them in matches where they can beat up people and hurt people. Use them while they are the champions to send a message. We also saw the New Day beat up the Hurt Business again in a rematch, as Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods took on Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander for the tag team titles. New Day retained their titles again in that rematch. And then we saw Alexa Bliss defeat Nikki Cross. And during the match of Randy Orton versus AJ Styles, we saw The Fiend come out. So it looks like they're going to be starting up that rivalry again between Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt. As we know, Bray Wyatt had inducted Randy Orton into the Wyatt family, but Randy Orton was using the Wyatt family to get closer to Bray Wyatt to take the WWE title from him. So it's gonna be a great feud. I can't wait to see the upcoming matches, especially now because this Fiend is different from that Bray Wyatt from back in the day. That was a cult leader back in the day. This is a serial killer you dealing with now in the Fiend. Couple side notes. I can't, like I said, got some new storylines building, especially at the Survivor Series pay-per-view. Upcoming major pay-per-view for WWE will be the TLC pay-per-view. Tables, ladders, and chairs. We should be able to see some exciting matches, and that's going to pretty much end us out the year to take us to the road to WrestleMania, where we're going to be kicking it off in January with the world's famous Royal Rumble. And I wonder how they're going to be doing that, especially with these COVID protocols. And that brings me to the end of my show. I appreciate yet again you guys for sticking around with your boy. We've had some good times. We had some good laughs. I hope you all had a happy Thanksgiving. We have Christmas coming up. I'm going to be celebrating my wedding anniversary as well on December 7th. So exciting things are happening within our lives. I hope to see you guys back here next week where we're going to be back for episode 5 of Robs2Cents. Can't believe we're already in the 5th episode since I decided to go on this journey. I appreciate you guys for going on this journey with me. Please like, share, subscribe, and continue to be great. And you already know the slogan, y'all. We gone.